Let me paint a picture for you that probably feels a little too close to home. Think back to 5 years ago. Maybe you were making $42,000 a year. You were living in a cramped apartment, driving a beat-up Honda Civic, and counting every penny. You probably remember thinking to yourself, if I could just hit $70,000, I'd be set. I'd finally be able to breathe. Life would be perfect. Fast forward to today. You did it. You climbed the ladder, you worked the overtime, you landed that promotion. You're now pulling in $78,000 a year, nearly double what you used to make. You've upgraded the apartment, the car is newer, and you don't think twice about ordering an extra appetizer at dinner. But here's the weird part. Despite having more money than ever, you're sitting here watching a video about financial stress, feeling that exact same knot in your stomach you had when you were making $42K. In fact, if you're being honest, you might actually feel more stress now than you did back then. And the craziest part of all, you're already telling yourself that same old lie. If I could just hit 6 figures, then I'd finally feel comfortable. Does that sound familiar? If so, don't worry. You're not alone, and you're not failing. My name is Bill, and I spend way too much time obsessing over why more never actually feels like enough. If you're someone who keeps hitting income milestones only to find yourself back at square one emotionally, or if you've ever wondered why you don't feel as successful as your bank account says you should be, you've come to the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and give this a thumbs up, because we're about to dive deep into the psychology of why your brain is basically rigged against your bank account.
The thing is, what you're feeling isn't a personal flaw. It's not that you're ungrateful or bad with money. What you're experiencing is one of the most well-documented psychological traps in human history, and it has a name: the hedonic treadmill. Once you understand how this invisible machine works, you'll finally understand why you've been sprinting toward happiness for years without actually getting any closer to the finish line. More importantly, you'll learn how to finally step off. The concept of the hedonic treadmill, or hedonic adaptation, has been around since the 1970s. Psychologists discovered that humans have this incredible and sometimes frustrating ability to adapt to almost any change in their life, whether it's good or bad. Eventually, we always return to a stable baseline level of happiness. You win the lottery? You'll be on cloud 9 for a few months, but a year later, research shows you'll likely be right back where you started emotionally. You get into a terrible accident, you'll be devastated, but surprisingly, most people recalibrate back toward their original baseline of happiness over time. This isn't just theory, it's backed by decades of hard data. A famous 1978 study looked at lottery winners and found that just 1 year after their big win, they weren't significantly happier than a regular control group. In some cases, they actually enjoyed everyday activities less than they did before they were rich. Think about how heavy that is. People with life-changing wealth ended up deriving less pleasure from a good cup of coffee or a conversation with a friend than someone who never won a dime.
This proves that not feeling rich isn't a poverty problem, it's a brain problem. Your brain is running a program designed to keep you seeking more, and it's running that program on every raise and every promotion you ever get. Usually, it takes about 3 to 6 months for your brain to recalibrate to a new income level. By autumn, it's just the machine that gets you to work. Your brain isn't built to stay impressed by what you have. It's built to adapt, ignore the current status, and start hunting for the next upgrade. It's an ancient survival mechanism that's being hijacked by a modern world of endless consumption. And until you realize you're on a treadmill, you're going to keep running until you collapse. Look, I need to share some numbers with you, because this is where the psychology gets really interesting and, frankly, a little disturbing. There's a famous 2010 study from Princeton that looked at over 450,000 people and found that emotional well-being does rise with income, but only up to a certain point, around $75,000 per year. After that threshold, making more money had almost zero measurable impact on day-to-day happiness. Now, I know what you're thinking. Bill, that study is old. $75,000 doesn't go nearly as far as it used to. And you're right. Adjusted for inflation in late 2025, that number is closer to $100,000. But even with more recent data from Wharton, the trend holds up. While happiness can continue to climb past 6 figures, it does so at a drastically diminished rate. Let's do the math on that. If moving from 50,000 to 100,000 gives you, say, 20 units of happiness, moving from 100,000 to 200,000 might only give you 5 or 6 more units. You've doubled your income, probably doubled your stress, and definitely doubled your working hours, but you only got a tiny fraction of the emotional return. This is the law of diminishing marginal utility applied to your entire life, yet nobody in the hustle harder community talks about this.
They want you to stay on that treadmill, because if you realize the destination doesn't exist, you might stop buying what they're selling. Let me show you how this actually plays out in real dollars and cents, because seeing your money evaporate in real time is a wake-up call. Imagine you're 30 years old, making $60,000. After taxes, you're taking home about $3,900 a month. Your rent, food, and basic bills come to $2,400, leaving you with $1,500 of fun money. It's tight, but you're okay. Then you get that big promotion to $80,000. Now your take-home is $5,200. But here's the trap. Because you earned it, you move to a nicer apartment, plus $500 rent. You upgrade the car, plus $150 payment. And you start eating out more because you're too busy being successful, plus $300 food. Throw in some new clothes and a few more subscriptions, and suddenly your expenses have ballooned to $3,800. Your leftover cash? $1,400. You made $20,000 more a year, yet you actually have less breathing room than when you were broke. This is lifestyle inflation. It is the physical manifestation of the hedonic treadmill in your bank account, and it is a certified epidemic. In 2023, Bank of America reported that over 50% of people making between $100,000 and $150,000 describe themselves as living paycheck to paycheck. Read that again. These are people in the top 20% of household incomes, yet they are financially stressed every single month. And it's not just the high-cost cities, it's everywhere. Even 36% of people making over $200,000 are living paycheck to paycheck. At a certain point, we have to stop blaming the economy and start looking at the psychology. These aren't people who can't afford their lives. These are people whose lives have expanded to swallow every single dollar available. They are sprinting at maximum speed, convinced that just one more raise will finally bring them peace. But the treadmill doesn't have a finish line. That's the whole design. Now, I'm not saying you should live like a monk and never want anything nice. That's a common misconception. The goal isn't to kill your desire, it's to make your desire intentional. There is a massive difference between upgrading your house because you truly value the space for your family and upgrading it just because that's what people do when they get a raise. One is conscious spending, the other is unconscious adaptation to external pressure. The treadmill runs on autopilot, assuming that more is always better. But your current self has already adapted to what you have, and your future self will adapt to the next thing just as fast. You can't win this game by running harder. You can only win by changing the rules of the race. So how do we actually beat the machine? It starts with understanding what I call the experience gap. Researchers have found that spending money on experiences, like travel, a concert, or learning a new skill, provides much more lasting happiness than buying material things. Why? Because you can't get used to a memory the way you get used to a new couch. Experiences become part of your identity and your stories, whereas physical objects just become part of the background noise of your life. A 2014 study showed that even the anticipation of an experience makes us happier than waiting for a new gadget to arrive in the mail. Here's the financial twist. Experiences are often way cheaper than the material upgrades we think we need. A weekend camping trip might cost you $200 and give you stories you'll tell for a decade. Meanwhile, the $40,000 SUV you bought to look like an outdoorsy person will stop making you happy after 3 months. We are systematically overspending on things that provide zero long-term joy and underspending on things that actually make life worth living. It's not just bad psychology, it's bad math. And this leads us to the biggest trap of all, the arrival fallacy. This is the illusion that once you reach a certain destination, the 6-figure job, the paid-off house, the $1 million net worth, you'll finally be happy. But happiness doesn't exist at the destination. It exists in the progress toward meaningful goals. If you sacrifice your 30s and 40s to reach an arrival point, you're going to find it feels incredibly hollow when you get there because your brain has already moved the goalposts. If you want to step off the treadmill without giving up on success, you need 3 practical tools. First, you need a lifestyle anchor. This is a rule you set for yourself right now. Whenever you get a raise, you commit to a specific split. Maybe 70% goes straight into investments, and only 30% goes toward lifestyle upgrades. This prevents that automatic inflation from swallowing your progress. You're still improving your life, but you're doing it with a leash on. You're making progress toward freedom while still enjoying the fruits of your labor. Second, you should try a little negative visualization.
It sounds dark, but it's actually incredibly liberating. Once a week, spend 10 minutes vividly imagining what your life would look like if you lost everything you have now. Your job, your car, your nice apartment. When you open your eyes and realize you still have those things, the gap between that imagined loss and your current reality creates a massive surge of gratitude. Gratitude is the only known antidote to hedonic adaptation. You don't need a bigger house to feel rich. You just need to stop taking the one you have for granted. Finally, you have to start optimizing for time instead of money. This is where most people get the trade completely backward. They sacrifice their limited time to earn money, then use that money to buy minor conveniences, never realizing that the ultimate luxury purchase is buying your time back. Every dollar you invest instead of spending on stuff is a dollar that is out there working for you. In the long run, those dollars buy you the ability to walk away from a job you hate or a schedule that burns you out. You're not running to buy a bigger TV, you're running to buy your Monday mornings back. That is a race that actually has a finish line. The hedonic treadmill isn't evil, it's just an ancient survival mechanism that isn't suited for a world of 24/7 advertising and social media comparison. Every ad you see is designed to make you feel like you aren't there yet. But being human means you have the power to recognize the program and choose a different path. You can decide that enough is a fixed number, not a moving target. You can choose memories over clutter and time over status. Success isn't about how fast you can run on the treadmill. It's about having the courage to step off and walk your own path. If this helped you rethink your relationship with your bank account, smash that like button and subscribe for more ways to actually win the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Would you like me to help you calculate your specific lifestyle anchor percentages based on your current income goals?